I'm with Beth Simmons, and today we're making a wind chime. This is fun.
This is a lot of fun. This is one of my favorite easy projects to make. We have here an example of a kind of extensive project that you can do, but we're going to be going over a little bit simpler process. I love how you can incorporate the driftwood. We use a bare copper wire so it will patina and age as it's outside. The bells have a nice subtle tinkle to it. There's not a big chime to it, and I find that that's very pleasant.
Soothing in the garden. Very nice.
You can hang this from your tree, and legend has that the fairies will use it to climb up at night and spread their love in your trees.
What could be better than that?
Absolutely.
I think this is great. Well, show us some of the items here that you're going to use to make it.
Well, we're going to be using these pre-drilled driftwood pieces. If you find driftwood on the beach, you can also use that, and we'll show you how to wrap the wire around the wood. But this is pre-drilled driftwood. We're using 18 gauge bare copper wire. And we're using a selection of handmade Indian glass beads. These beads all have nice large holes, and I've picked out a variety of some of my favorite colors. We've got a dark sapphire and cobalt blue mix with an aurora borealis finish. We have an aqua mix here that has a frosted finish, another aqua mix, but these are transparent. And then a transparent aqua mix with frosted. Also a clear mix with a luster finish, and we've used those with some of the crystal chandelier parts to make a rainbow maker.
Oh, nice. And
then again, the brass bells with the very delicate sounding jingle.
And you could use any size brass bells, really.
Yeah.
A lot of these items you could vary. You just want to pay attention to the whole size.
Yeah, the important part is the whole size.
And one thing that I love about Indian glass beads is you often find them in these types of assortments where it's lots of different shapes and some different colors together. But they do have a little powder inside. And we were talking earlier that, you know, some people are bothered by that, but it's really nothing to be concerned about.
Yeah, it's a clay. It's actually called kaolin clay, and it's even used in face masks. And if you get some powder on your hands, it can just brush away or wash away. You can even wash the clay out of the middle of the beads if you want before your project. And sometimes it comes in handy if the hole is a little bit small. You can kind of work a little bit of that clay out to make the hole a little larger.
Okay, well, how should we get started?
So to begin, we're going to take about an 18-inch piece of wire and snip that off.
This is great practice for your wrapped loops, too.
Yes, we're going to make quite a few wrapped loops with this project. About 3 or 4 inches in, we're going to turn a 90-degree angle. And then we're going to use these jump ring making pliers to make a large loop. And I'm going to just wrap it up and over and around.
And what size wire did you say that this is?
Oh, this is an 18 gauge bare copper wire.
Okay.
And then I'm going to add my bell to that. You can use any color wire that you prefer if you like a brass look or something like that. I like the copper because it will patina in the yard. And then we're going to just wrap that tail around the straight piece of wire.
Okay, so you're working from the end up.
Yeah, we're working from the end up on this piece, and then cut off the excess. Make sure you hold on to that tail or it can go flying, and we don't want to take an eye out.
Dangerous.
And then we're going to tuck that in just a little bit. So next you want to add your beads, whatever pattern, about 5 or 6 inches worth, and then add your driftwood piece, and then add more beads at the top. You can do a mixture of textures, you can do a mixture of colors, anything that suits your fancy. So we're just gonna add a few more beads to this strand. I like to go about 6 or 7 inches
Okay.
with a variety of beads.
Yeah, this would be a fun way to use up beads from other projects too.
And then we'll add our driftwood piece. And then another 3 or 4 inches worth of beads. You want to make sure that you leave about a 3 or 4 inch piece of wire at the top, so you have enough length to make another wrapped loop.
Okay. And these pieces of driftwood that you're using are pre-drilled, but you could drill your own if you find some on the beach, or you're going to show us how to wrap them too, right?
Yes, absolutely. So now that we have our wire filled up here, and we want to make sure that we have that 3 or 4 inches left over, we're going to turn our wire at a 90-degree angle, and we're going to use our large jump ring making pliers again to wrap the loop up and over and around. This time you don't have to add anything to it though.
Okay.
And then wrap that tail around just to take up any space that might be left over.
So this is making your hanger.
And you can make your hole up here as big as you want. And like in this one, I've made a little S hook so that it attaches to my branch. And we tuck in our tail. And now we're going to add our second piece of bell to it. And we're going to take about a 12-inch piece of wire for that one. And this time we're going to start at the wood rather than starting at the bell.
Okay.
You can do it either way. I just find that this way is a little bit easier for me.
Easy is good.
So we're going to put a little notch in the wire, and then we're going to wrap the wire around the wood a couple of times. And you want to make sure that you go on either side of the wire. And then you're going to take the leftover tail and wrap that around your straight piece.
So you want to make sure that's pretty tight.
Well, if you don't get it tight enough, there's a special decorative trick to help it cinch down on the wood. Like this is definitely not that tight. So I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to turn a little notch. And that helps to pull that wire in just a little tighter. And you can do that on the other side as well if you need a little extra tightness.
Okay. It seats it together, and it is decorative, like you say.
Yeah, I like the way that it looks, and it helps make that wire not be able to move. A lot of the driftwood pieces have little nubs on them, but some of them don't.
You kind of have to work around.
Yep, you work with what nature gives you.
Right.
So now we're going to add on the rest of our beads.
I like how you're blending the shiny and the matte. That's fun.
I do too. It takes all kinds of variety.
How much wire do you have to leave at the bottom of your piece there?
You want, again, about 3 or 4 inches.
Okay,
I like there to be a little bit of a step between the shorter piece and the longer piece.
Yeah,
you
that
can
looks
make
good.
them even, but that's my preference. So something like that. Again, turn that 90-degree angle, and then use your jump ring plier, boop, 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 this way, to wrap around.
Add your bell.
Add your bell.
Or you could add a crystal, or...
Absolutely, you could add one of the chandelier crystal parts, and then, oops, wrong plier. Wrap the end around your wire. Lots of wrapped loops here, and they don't have to be perfect. You want them to have a garden appeal.
Some fairy flair.
Some fairy flair, absolutely. And then trim off the excess. and tuck your tip in.
And also, this is a really good, like we said, it's a good practice. And when you're using a larger gauge like this, it's easier and you're making bigger loops.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to work with the larger gauge, especially when you're learning. You can make mistakes and it's a little bit more forgiving.
Right.
So then you would repeat the same process on the other side to balance it out.
And how would we do that? Same?
Yep, so the same process with a 12-inch piece of wire. And turn it there.
And why do you turn it in a 90-degree? Do you think it just seats it better against the wood?
You want what's called a lollipop loop rather than a candy cane loop.
Got it.
And the 90-degree angle helps to give you that front and then around, whereas if you didn't turn the 90-degree, you'd end up with more of a loop that looks like a candy cane, if you can picture what I mean.
There you go.
And that little nub is kind of in the way. And wrap around.
Okay.
And trim off the excess.
Well, let's take a look at the one that you brought.
Okay.
Over here we have with the 3 different strands, and you can see how it finishes up there, which is great. I love this. And I have you call this the rainbow maker. That's so clever.
We've taken a chandelier part and put it at the end there. And if you hang it in your window or outside when the sun hits it, it's going to give you a rainbow on your wall.
And of course, you get to add as many rows as you want to have the fairy ladder.
And so you just link the rows together. Instead of putting the bell, you use the loop to add another link to the chain.
Nice. And you brought one more idea to show us.
Yes, this is using the same techniques, the same beads, and the same wire. We're using the wires to create a bubble wand.
Fun.
Yeah, my son loves those.
Yeah, it's really fun. So you make one big loop and then add your beads.
Yep.
And you just make a wrapped loop at the end, and you could add ribbon or anything you want to this.
Make it as fanciful as you like.
Those are really fun too. This is a great beading garden party.
I love it. It would be great for like a tea party.
Yeah, and this is good for a beginner project too. You could bring over all your friends. You can have a little beading party.
Very
I think it sounds like
accessible.
fun.